Good morning. Almost afternoon. We'll count it as afternoon. It's past 11. I'm gonna give everybody just a minute to hop in, and then we'll get started. It might just be us today. Let's see. Do you have anybody else waiting? All right. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, what I want to do today, since I know, Mr. Schneider, I know you're transferring over to, you guys are planning on transferring over to from Dotloop to DocuSign. Lisa, I know you've been in this before, so I planned on kind of just going through a overview, best practices, how to operate DocuSign. We are recording this, so we'll have this sent out to you so that you can come back and reference things, stuff like that. So first and foremost, first thing to check, and this I guess will be for you, William, is come into Command and go to your settings. And the one thing we want to make sure is that we have DocuSign connected. If for some reason you do not have DocuSign connected, let me know. I'll gladly walk you through the steps to be able to do that. Pretty simple. You can probably figure it out, but if you need any help, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. But once you do that, a couple of key things with using DocuSign and Command together is always start inside the contact. It just makes everything kind of communicate together and mesh and creates records and things like that. And what I mean is, I'm using myself as a test one, and I do recommend that everybody creates themselves in Command so that you can test stuff and do things like this just to see how it works. But we're going to come in and we're going to go to the Opportunities tab here in the middle. And you can see another reason that I like to start in Command is over time, as people do multiple transactions with you, Command keeps track of all the deals they've ever done. Now, these are all the different test ones I've done with explaining how to use Command, but it just gives you an example of kind of the history, so to speak, of the transactions with your client. But what you're going to do is start inside of here. Really simply, we're just going to come up and we're going to come to this create an opportunity up here in the very top right-hand corner. When we create the opportunity, it's going to ask for a certain amount of information. Now, you're going to want to select your team if obviously everybody on the team, or you putting it underneath the team profile. So just something worth noting, if you're on a team, you always want to select what the team is. I'm not going to put it under the team because I don't want to mess up my team stuff. But then we're going to come down. Are we doing a listing or a buyer? Obviously, you can have landlord and tenant, but we don't really do that very much. So most times it's going to be a listing or a buyer. The owner of it is obviously going to be either the team owner or what the default is. It automatically fills inside of there. Then you're going to put in who is the client. So you can see once I type the name in, it just plugs in who the client is here. If they have a second client, so like a wife or something like that, you can simply put that in and it would select there. And then opportunity name. I will say this, if it's a listing, go ahead and add the address. It just makes it easier for being able to find the opportunity later on, both for you and for any admin support or anything that you have. So you have that. If it's a buyer, then you would have buyer here, and I just wait and add the address later on. But it just makes it easier when you're searching and things along those lines. Then you're going to put in, you only have to put in the things that have the red asterisk on them. So what is your expected commission rate off of this? Now, keep in mind, we're not counting the co-op on this. So if we're taking a listing, and let's just say that we take the listing made up example of, whatever, let's use a crazy number in case this gets posted to YouTube, 10%, whatever percentage, whatever that is going to be your portion, in this case, I'm going to say 3, is going to come in here. And then you can decide what phase you want it in terms of opportunity and stuff like that. That part doesn't really matter for DocuSign. It's more of just how your team or yourself chooses to organize your opportunities. But once we do that, we're going to click create. And then you can see here, it has January 9th. This is the one that I just created. So it has the opportunity here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to click that name. And this is going to open up our full opportunity. Inside of here, a couple of things you can see. Here's the opportunity name. So that's what we just named it. Best practices, especially if you already know the address, which if you've gotten to this point, you probably know the address, whether you're writing an offer for somebody or it's a listing. Go ahead and come in and fill that out in here. Just going to put one in randomly so you can see it fills out there. That just makes, again, you just want to have the property as much information as possible. You don't really need to worry about anything else down below. It'll autofill what it needs to, but this is what helps connect it to KLRS, which helps communicate in the whole system as a whole. So you want to have the property address filled in if possible. Then for the actual DocuSign, what we're going to do is we're going to come to the Documents tab right here in the middle. And the first thing we're going to do is come over here to the left-hand side, and we're going to pick the checklist type. And you have either Kentucky residential, you have a referral. So this is if you are sending a referral out and expecting a referral check to come back to you. That would be when you would use the referral. An Indiana residential, a Kentucky residential new construction, or a Kentucky residential commercial inside of there. And by the way, William, if you ever need like Indiana commercial or anything like that, just let me know. We can obviously add those in as needed. But in this case, I'm just going to pick Kentucky residential. That will pull up and select what all needs to be in here with all of the different documents that you might need as far as like what's required, what isn't required, things like that. Okay. So then next thing I'm going to do, once I've selected what type of checklist I need, then to actually start the process in DocuSign, I'm going to come up here to start a transaction. And the reason that we do this is here in a minute, I'm going to show you how everything connects together so that you can see exactly how, oh, what just happened there? Hold on a second. Move this around. Why did that not work? There we go. Okay, I wasn't logged in apparently. So if you ever get that error, just go back and then make sure that you're logged in. So we logged in now. You can see it created a whole new room for me. So if you're on DocuSign, the front page is the dashboard. I don't operate inside of here hardly ever. Really, you're going to operate inside the Rooms account. This is where almost everything's going to happen. And in here, you can see you have all kinds of transactions, especially over time. You can do, part of the reason that we named it the way we do is if we need to look something up, so I can do 123 Main Street, then you can see by adding the name of it in the overall opportunity, which in turn is the name of the DocuSign room, then, and think of rooms as the same thing as a loop, if you're familiar with .loop, then it just makes it easier to be able to search those. So I'm going to open this. And you don't have to do anything on the front page. Where we're going to go next is Documents tab. So in here, this is where we're going to add our documents. And to add a document, you're going to come up here to the Add button. Then you're going to come down to DocuSign Forms right here. Now, if you have a specific form that's unique to you or unique to your team or unique to your process, then you can add it from the computer, and then it'll allow you to search your computer and upload anything that you need to upload. But most of the time, you're just going to come down and go to DocuSign Forms. Now, the very first time you use this, well, if you haven't got it in here yet, it's going to pop up and show you like a bunch of different board names and NAR and all kind of stuff and say, which one do you want to select? In the bottom right-hand corner of that box will be proceed forward. You don't have to actually select any of those. Just click that, whatever it says in the bottom right-hand corner, and it'll take you to this page. And inside this page is where we have all of our documents that are needed and anything that you could ever potentially need, with most of the stuff being underneath KW 1031. So you would come down and select what you need. Now, I don't have access to Indiana documents because I'm not licensed in Indiana, but you'll have libraries that will show Indiana documents and stuff. So for this purpose, you know, Joe, just, I don't know why I called you William earlier, by the way. I guess it's because your name says William on there. So Joe, just so you know, I'm going to use Kentucky documents, but you'll have documents set up for Indiana as well. So what you're going to do is come in here, and you can come straight to the listing packet or select your individual documents. And we're going to come in here and select what documents we need. So I'm going to do KREC, guide to agencies. I'm going to do the agency consent. And just to keep it simple for this training, I'll do the listing agreement. I won't do any of the disclosures and stuff. We'll save that for later. So now you can see we've added in the document. So this is the documents that we're going to work off of to get e-signatures. Now, best practices before you actually set up the signature, couple of things. One, I usually come up to Actions and add a folder, and I'll name a folder Listing Docs. Well, if I could type. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to do Actions. I'm going to add one more folder because I know I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to do an under contract. Or you can put pending, whatever kind of triggers you. The reason that you do that is, you'll see this here in a minute. Once we set this up for e-signature and we start signing documents, both the raw version of the forms, the unsigned and unfilled version of the forms, sits in Room Docs. Once we get it set up for signature and they sign it, that also drops into Room Docs. So you can imagine if you're getting 30 documents signed over the life of a transaction, this Room Docs folder becomes full of all kinds of both unsigned and signed documents. And it makes it, at least in my opinion, really hard to be able to see what documents do I actually need to send for compliance, things along those lines. So just set those folders up and then you can transfer stuff up as you get signatures. But from there, once you have all of your documents in, the next thing is we need to set it up for signature. And to do that, we're going to check all the documents we need. And then we're going to come up here to this little envelope. And this is where we're actually going to set stuff up for signature. Now, I'm going to go over a couple things before I get into that. First is you can drag and drop documents in between folders as you need to. So you can see I'm just dragging and dropping them. If you want to move a bunch of documents into a folder, you can check those and then come up to the Move button and then select In Current Room, and then it'll give you which folder do you want to drop those into. The other thing is you can email documents. So once we get a signature, I'll show you how to do that. Once we have signatures on, you can print documents. You can combine documents together into one document or separate them out. You can download the documents. So that's just download them so you have hard copies of them. You can archive documents, which means they're just hiding them from your view, but they're still inside the loop. Or you can delete documents. Now, if you delete a document, that means it's completely gone forever. You can never access that version of the document again. You could always come in and add a new document. So if I deleted out the real estate listing agreement, I can always come back in and add the other document. If you archive it, it will not let you add it back. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I have the Gore real estate agreement and I archive it, and then I come in and I want to add that document back because it ends up, oh, I didn't mean to archive it. I actually need that back. And I select it. Let me make sure I select the exact same one. Hold on. You can see right here it says it's in use because I just archived it. So you can check this box up here at the top and it'll say show all documents, and then it'll show back up. You can also select to see just archive documents if you want. If you accidentally archive something, just check the box, click up here to unarchive, and then you can see it disappears from all archive documents. I switch back to active documents, and then it's right back in there. So I have had that where documents disappear, and or especially with the agency consent where we get it signed for, in Kentucky at least, for part one, and then come back and get it signed for part B. I've seen where people archive it and then can't re-access it. So just wanted to cover that real quick. But how you actually set it up for signatures, and in my opinion, once you get used to this, it's actually a lot easier than dotloop, and I'll show you why. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go to this little pin here, which says create envelope, and I'm going to create the envelope. And this is going to set it up for signatures where I can fill out the documents, where I can get things signed, stuff like that. So I'm going to select who all needs to sign stuff. So if I have one seller, I'm just going to collect one seller. If I have two sellers, I select that. And then if the listing agent, needs to sign, you can select that as well. Now, just to keep this simple for the training, I'm only going to do sellers and not do the listing agent. Actually, no, I'll go ahead and do all three. So we're going to hit continue. Now from here, it's going to take a second to load because what it's actually doing is automatically pre-setting up all the signatures for the seller, all the initials for the seller, the signature for you, and all that, meaning it's setting the documents up and putting all those signature spots in place. So if you only had one seller, it would only put in one signature spot. If you had two sellers, it'll put in two signature spots. And then once that's done, it comes here to where this is how we're going to set it up to send. And what I mean by that is if you forgot to upload a document, you could simply come in here and upload more documents. If you ended up not needing this document, I'll just take this one out, for example. You can delete a document out and get rid of it. You can come in here and come back to to add a rooms document that was in the room before. So I could come to my rooms docs, come in here and say, oh, I didn't mean to delete that one out. Let me add, I believe it was this one. Yeah. And add that back in. So just know you don't have to like start over if you make one of the, make a mistake or something like that. So you can see I added in here. Now the other thing, and I don't know how detailed you want me to go on this, but just in case you want to know this, you can drag and drop documents and reorder them. So like for me, I prefer my documents to get signed in a certain order, so I can drag and drop these in order to be able to make that happen. Once you have them in the order that you want, then you're going to come down and Here's where we're setting up for e-signature. You see seller one is set up as me, Matt Brown. So, and then we have another seller inside of here. Oh, I added too many. Hold on. Let me take some of these out. This is one where I was messing around earlier today. Normally it's going to look like this. There we go. Okay, so I got 3 people. I got seller 1, I got seller 2. I'm going to actually change this one. So if I send this to Jen, she's going to be like, why are you sending me contracts? What are you buying now? And I'll make this one my Matt at 270agents.com. There we go. And then listing agent. Now, a couple of things inside of here. So this is seller 1, this is seller 2. And actually, I'll put Matt Brown 1 so you can see this. Matt Brown 2, Matt Brown agent. Since we're all using the same name. Okay, a couple things inside of here. If this box is checked where it says set signing order, then whatever order I have here, you can see this is position 1, position 2, position 3. Whatever order I have, it's going to send to Matt Brown 1 first, and only once Matt Brown has completely signed everything, then does it send to seller 2 or Matt Brown 2. Then once Matt Brown 2 has signed everything, it's going to send to the listing agent for you to be able to sign everything. Now, if it doesn't matter the signing order, you just uncheck that box and it sends to everybody at the same time, and anybody can sign at any given time. So just wanted to note that. So you'll come down, if you need to add another recipient, you can do that here. You can even add delays where you don't send it until a certain number of days between things. I've honestly never used that. I'm just pointing out that it has that option. Then down here is the message that's going to go out with when your people receive it to sign. Now, something to note, it's always going to say complete with DocuSign, and then whatever the first document is. So I'll usually go in and change this and just say this is listing agreement docs or documents. There we go. So I'm going to hit this. You can type out a message to anything that you wanted to type. If there's something specific you needed to say in there, you can do that. And then we're going to go to next. And now it's going to set us up for e-signature. So a couple things on how this page works is you can scroll down and see how these have gray boxes. I'm just going to scroll down to the purchase agreement. Let me get down there. So that's more boxes and easier to explain. So you see it pre-fills in some information for me. You can see I have a lot of the seller's info is already pre-filled in. The brokerage is already filled in. Every gray box means it's up to me to fill it out. So I'm either going to check this box or that box. I can double click in here just to check marks. I can come in here and say I want this to be done at 8 a.m. This we'll say 9th day of January 2025. There we go. And we would just move through and fill out the contract like we always would. Fill in as much of this stuff as we need to fill out. Now, you can see down here, it already has it set up for initials for both our, in this case, both of our sellers. They're color coded. So you can see Matt Brown 1, which is seller 1, is in yellow. I can switch up here to Matt Brown 2, and you see how that turns this little kind of turquoise color? That's this color here. So anything that is in this light blue turquoise color is going to be filled out and or signed by number 2. Now, let's just say that these signatures weren't here for whatever reason, or you're adding something that needs to be signed. You just want them to initial next to this little paragraph to make sure that they acknowledge that they've read it, stuff like that. Then you're going to be under whoever you're looking to add the signature to, and then you're going to come to the initial and just drag and drop it in its spot. You can, if you want, grab the corners and change the size of it however you want. And then if you need a date signed, we're going to come here to date signed, plug that in. And then if you want a, by the way, date signed includes the time. So I usually come in and just delete out the time because it's already going to include the time. However, if you wanted to include the time and have them fill out the time that they're basically signing it, you can add a text box. So you can see I'm still under blue. Add the text box and drop it right here. Size it how you need to. And then if you want to make sure that it's required that they fill it out, meaning it's not going to let them submit this back to you until everything that is required is filled out, then you can see it has the required field box. If I uncheck required field, then it turns it white. It still has the blue outline. It's kind of hard to see. Let me move it off that line. So it still has the outline, but it's not shaded in, which means it's an optional field. So when you get to like seller disclosures, for example, all the fields are optional, or else you'd have to check every single box inside of there. But if you wanted them, long story short, if you want them to fill it out and they need to fill it out, then make sure the required field is checked. It should be shaded in that blue color, and that will require them to fill it out. But if it's just a time, just delete it out because we don't need it. Now, let's say that for whatever reason, I'm going to scroll down to further conditions. Let's just say for whatever reason, I needed one of the clients to fill out this line. Let's just pretend like it was another document in some way, shape, or form. If I need them to fill out this document, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to come down to text, and I'm going to put the text box in. I can either shape the text box to fill the entire area. I can shape it just to fill that line. And again, I'm adding that text, so now they have to fill this line out, and I either make it required or not required. So pretty simple there. If there's a checkbox that you want them to fill out, so for example, if you want the seller to select whether or not they want in this particular contract, an MLS lockbox to be assigned to the property, you can come down and you can do a checkbox and drop it right there. I'm just going to delete this one out real quick. There we go. So I can drop a checkbox in there, and then again, it'll have in, see how it's shaded, so it does require them to check that. You can hit the plus button below here, and when you hit the plus button, now it's a either or, which means since you hit the plus button, now there's a big difference. I want to note this. If I come and add a second checkbox, it's going to make them check both boxes because both are shaded, which means they're both required fields. I don't want that. Instead, if it's multiple choice like this one is, I'm going to hit the plus button and then drag it over, and now they get to choose which one they want to check. And they would check just this one, and it would allow them to move forward like that. There's a bunch of other options inside of here. You can see what those are, and as you get to playing with this, so for example, if you need to do a strike through of some sort, you can come to drawing. You can actually draw up on top of here, and use that for like a strike through or something along those lines. There's a lot of other things that you can do. And I'll let y'all play with it and just kind of let me know if you struggle to figure something out. The other thing is you might need to fill something out. So let me delete some of this stuff out real quick. By the way, I'm just clicking on it and hitting delete, or you can come over here and click the little delete button over there. But let's say that you need to fill some of these lines out and you wanted to fill it out as an agent. Well, as I mentioned earlier, these are color coded, but I don't want to fill it out as agent because that means it's going to be filled at the time I signed it. I want it permanently filled on the document, like similar to how this address is. Then I'm going to click over here on the left-hand side and see this little pin button. It says pre-filled tools. We're going to click that. And then this allows me to, and you can see it's in a gray color. This allows me to fill out anything I need on here. So if I want to fill out this particular line, then I'm going to move that text box there, and then I can type anything I want to type inside of there. And now this is on the document for the signature. This is where I actually do my strike throughs, by the way. I would come to the line right here, drop it in, and if I was striking through that, do that. And then, as you know, I know y'all both know this, but just for anybody else who's watching the video, if you ever do a strike through, what's called an above the line change, then everybody that is associated with that needs to initial next to it. So we're going to come up and go to buyer number 2 initial right here. And then I'm going to go to buyer number 1. I'm just selecting that top box, switching to my yellow fields, and then I'm going to have them initial next to it like that. And it's really just that simple. And then, of course, you can add date signed if you want date signed next to it as well. But you would work your way through the document and setting it up like that. So, Joe, first time with me. I think first time, really, y'all are just now starting to dive into DocuSign. Is what I'm saying on editing documents making sense, or do you have any questions that you want me to go back over? Oh, I think you're muted. You good? Okay. Okay.
No, it's good, really good. I'm with you on it.
Okay, perfect. So now once we've done that, then we're going to go in and we're going to hit the send button. Now double check, make sure you got everything how you want it, of course, before you hit send. We're going to hit send, and I'm going to actually show you what this looks like through email and through the customer facing side of things as well. So I've sent it. Now, a couple things to note. On my DocuSign, in the documents room, you can see this is where we set everything up. You can see I have envelopes up here at the top. If I want to check the status of who signed what, click envelopes and then just click on the envelope. And you can see here, it'll tell you seller 1 waiting to sign, seller 2 waiting to sign, or needs to sign, listing agent needs to sign. You can also correct a document. Say you messed up and typoed something and they call you and say, hey, the price is wrong on this. You can come in and correct a document by clicking the correct button. And it'll allow you to go in and edit anything inside of here that you need to edit. So it takes us back to the front screen. Like I've even mistyped people's emails before and had to change it. So you would come in, change whatever you needed to, go to the next button, change anything you needed to change in here, and then click correct. And then once that's done, it does make the correction inside there. I will say this, in my experience, it's always best if you make a correction, click back inside of it and click the resend button. So it sends it back out so that they have the newest one at the very top of their email. But what it looks like from and oh, by the way, remember that message that I just typed in some mumbo jumbo? It's down here too, just so you have a record of what message was sent as well. But let me show you what it looks like from the consumer side. So in here, you can see, you'll get an email, by the way, that says you've been invited to a room. So this is every time you set up a room, it just sends you that email so that you know that's there. And we're going to come to complete with DocuSign documents. And I'm going to come here to review this would be like what your seller or buyer would see. So they'll click their email, they'll click review documents. And then it pops straight up. Next thing they're going to do is click continue, and they'll have the ability to read through everything. Or if they just want to go straight into signing, they click the start button in the top left corner, and it's going to take them to the next spot that they need to sign. So I'm going to do just a fake one there. There we go. And then you can see, remember how we had the time field here? Well, you can't really see it in here, but see, as soon as I sign this, it has the date. My time field's covering it up, but you can see it started to put the time in there. So that's why I say you don't really need them to fill out the time field. But if it's in here, then they would type in 3 o'clock like that and put it in whatever the time is. And then we're going to click through, and it's going to make me do everything inside of it. Oops, I skipped that one. Actually, I'm going to skip that one on purpose because I'll show you something. So I'm just going to start, and you see it just moves me along to each different signature that needs to happen, and I work my way through. Now, you see it took me right back to this one because this was a required field that I didn't fill in. So let me fill that in, and then I skipped this one, so it's going to make me go sign. Now, I'm still not going to initial that because I just want to show you this. If I click finish without that one being signed, it takes me back there. So there's no way for your people to miss a signature as long as you have it set up with the signature inside there. So I'm going to click the initial, click there. And then once I've done that, you can see the next went away. And then I have finish up at the top. So I'm going to click finish here. Give that a second. By the way, they never have to log in. Just let them know this. As soon as they'll get this after every single time they sign something. Just tell them to click no thanks and or close the document out. So now once we've done that, and I've only had one person sign, I want to go back to our envelope, and you can see inside of here listing documents. Now you can see seller 1, which I changed the name to Jane Doe, has signed. Now we're waiting on seller 2. So this way you can always see who you're waiting on to sign, even if you don't do signing order. But let me go through and go ahead and sign all of these documents real quick. I'll just do this one. I'm just going to click the buttons and get through it really fast. Boom, boom, boom. We'll do this one as testy test. And then it has finish at the bottom too, by the way, or you can do the one at the top. Click finish. No thanks, don't need to log in. They can just close that tab if they want. So now, by the way, I also want you to note this. You can see now that I've signed, or a seller has signed, it gives me a notification that says, hey, this person has viewed it and this person has signed it. So you can see right here, I have complete with DocuSign listing documents. And then the last signature would be me as the agent, where it's sending to me and saying, hey, don't forget to sign your part. So I'm going to click through here, and I think there's only one spot for me to sign right here on the Kentucky ones. We'll sign this one as Jane Doe again, and then finish there. Now, once that's done, now everybody's signed, including myself. By the way, if you need, and Joe, I'm not overly familiar with Indiana documents, but if you need broker's signature on here, you could add Kellyanne to DocuSign. So instead of where I added me as a listing agent, just add Kellyanne and she'll come in and sign behind you also as well. If you do have broker signature, I just know from like what her preference is, she wants to be the last one to sign. So that's where you would use that signing order. And oh, by the way, on the signing order, you can have two people in one position, which means that, you know, in this case, seller one and seller two both sign at the same time. And then Kellyanne would be position two. So once they both sign, then it goes to her for her to sign. So you can kind of play with it and set it up so people get things in the exact order that you want. So now we've done that, we're going to come in. Let me close back out. And now you're going to have an envelope. By the way, you'll get the email. So you'll see here, I have an email that says everything's completed and it gives you PDF copies in the email. So you could either, you got two options from this point. If it's, let's say you're writing a offer for a buyer, you could just take this email, and since it's all attached right here, just forward that straight to. The other option you could do is you can come into the envelope, you can see that it's completed. You can come down to documents, and this is what I was talking about. See how now we have our original raw documents unfilled here. Then we have our signed documents in the green. And then you always have this little certification thing that basically says, here's who signed it and when. So proof that, hey, I actually got this signed. I didn't manipulate the system or anything like that. But what I'll usually do at this point, just my best practice, is a couple things. Number one, I archive everything that is no longer in use. And I do archive the certification because it'll be there if I need it. You very rarely need that. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to archive those because I want my screen clean. I want to just deal with signed documents. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my documents from the room docs. I'm going to come up here to move, and I'm going to move them to select a destination in current room. And then I'm going to select my listing documents and move it there. So now when I go in and let's just say I get the FHA amendment clause and I upload that in here, then it's going to drop into the room documents. And that way I'm always working off of room docs or brand new documents that I'm currently working on. And then everything else that I need, if I need to come back and review the listing agreement or something, that'll be under listing documents. Then once I get an offer on this and we sign all of that, I'm going to move that to the under contract documents. So just a way to organize it and keep everything straight from there. But one of the things I want to show you, if you want to send this through, you can either send one or all the documents. You can also come in, if you didn't want to forward straight from your email, you could check the box here and come to email and then select who you want to email it to and just type that in. You obviously change the email message to anything you want and hit send, and then that's going to show up. It'll take just a second. There it is. So you can see right here, document has been shared with you, includes all of my information. Now, if you share it this way, I do want to note, it doesn't come through as an attachment. They have to actually view the document, and then it pulls up and they can download it and print it from there. So depending on what your co-op agents like or whoever you're forwarding it to likes, you can do it either one of those two different ways. The other things that you can kind of do inside of here is combine documents together. Like I said, if you wanted all of these just in one PDF, for example, you can come here to combine. It'll take just a second. This one kind of takes a minute, so I might escape out of it. Let's see. Oh. Refresh my page. That does take, by the way, if you combine or separate documents, it takes like 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm not going to waste your time with that, but just know you can do it. So now the reason that we started, but remember I had you start everything in command, and here's why. And Joe, this is probably more Stephanie's doing this stuff for you, I'm sure, but just so you're aware on how it functions. Whenever you come in, next thing when you're in the opportunity, we have to submit documents for compliance. So the reason that we start through command instead of going straight to DocuSign is command and DocuSign talk when you start in command. If you start in DocuSign and then try to go to command, you have to download everything from DocuSign, re-upload into command. But since we started inside of command, now once I select my room, so I'm going to come down here to listing docs, then I can come in here and it's this simple. So I'm just selecting what documents upload here like that, and then I would hit submit to MC and all my compliance is done. So it's that simple. The key is, and what I try to, and I say it multiple times, I just try to reiterate, everything starts in command and then flows through to DocuSign and then back to command from there. So that's the quick down and dirty easy part, easy, new, but easy, how to operate DocuSign. So what I would recommend you to do, Joe, as you're learning this, is go ahead and create yourself in Command. Build out a full template and like send it to signatures, just like that process of what I just did, and then just play with it a couple times, and you'll learn it from there. But is there
This
any
looks
specific questions I can answer for you?
this looks really nice. I mean, I think I'm gonna like this better than dot loop. I like the folders, which we
Mhm.
had in dot loop too, but this seems more organized. Um, the only issue I'm running into is when I create an opportunity.
Uh-huh.
And I can find my name, William Snyder, but if I try to select a team and I select the Harney team, it automatically converts it over to Chris. So I'm not on the Harney team, and I probably need to be.
Yes, let me stop this recording just for